A science fiction action story. The sky over Veridian 9 burned the color of a dying star. Kaylin Vance pressed her back against the corroded hull of a downed transport ship. Her breath coming in shallow, controlled bursts. 3 minutes ago, she had been tracking a faint distress signal across the salt flats. Now she was the one in distress. They had come out of nowhere, massive, shaggy silhouettes moving on 2 legs and 4. Their eyes gleaming like molten gold in the perpetual twilight of this forgotten world. The locals called them lycades. The official colonial reports called them unidentified predatory bioforms. Kaylin called them nightmares with teeth. She clutched her plasma rifle tighter. The weapon-S energy cell reading 17%. Not enough. Not nearly enough for what was coming. The first lycade had been easy enough to kill. A clean shot through its elongated skull, right between those glowing eyes. But where one fell, 3 more appeared. They moved with an unnatural coordination, herding her toward the wreckage like she was livestock. That was the thing about lycades, they weren't just animals. Someone had made them this way. 4 standard cycles ago, Kaylin had been a lieutenant in the United Colonies Marine Corps. She had seen action on 17 worlds. Fought insurgents, automatons, and things that defied classification. But nothing had prepared her for the lycade outbreak on Veridian 9. The colony had fallen in less than 72 hours. 15,000 civilians turned into nesting material for alien wolves that could tear through battle armor like wet paper. She was the only survivor, or so she had thought, until the distress signal crackled to life on her salvaged comms unit. The signal was faint, heavily encrypted with military-grade ciphers that she recognized from her service days. Someone else was alive out here. Someone with access to classified technology. And that someone was either her ticket off this rock or the bait in a very elaborate trap. A low growl rumbled from somewhere to her left. Then another from the right. The lycades had circled around while she was lost in thought. Stupid. Careless. The kind of mistake that got people killed. Kaylin risked a glance around the edge of the wreckage. 3 of them, each roughly the size of a ground transport vehicle. Their musculature rippling beneath patchwork fur that seemed to shift between shades of black, silver, and blood red. Their jaws hung open, revealing rows of serrated teeth designed for shearing flesh and crushing bone. But it was their eyes that truly unnerved her. Too intelligent, too calculating. These weren't mindless beasts. They were soldiers, just like her. The alpha larger than the others, with a pattern of bioluminescent scars across its chest, stepped forward. It tilted its head, studying her with what might have been curiosity. Then it spoke. Not in words. Exactly. But Kaylin heard something in her mind. A slithering, alien voice that bypassed her ears and whispered directly into her cortex. Run. We enjoy the chase. She ran. The salt flats stretched before her like a frozen ocean, cracked white earth crunching beneath her boots. Behind her, the lycades broke into a loping sprint, their massive paws kicking up clouds of alkaline dust. Kaylin poured every ounce of power into her exo-suit leg servos, pushing her speed past what a baseline human could achieve. She was fast, one of the fastest in her unit. But the lycades were faster. The first one lunged. She dropped into a slide, the creature's claws whistling inches above her helmet. Her plasma rifle came up, and she squeezed off 2 shots into its exposed belly. The bolts sizzled through fur and hide, leaving smoking craters. The lycade howled a sound that was part wolf, part machine, and entirely horrible, and crashed into the salt, skidding to a twitching stop. The other 2 didn't even slow down. They leaped over their fallen packmates, closing the distance with terrifying efficiency. Kaylin scrambled to her feet and ran harder. Her HUD flashed warning indicators. Suit integrity at 62%. Oxygen reserves nominal. Ammunition critical. She had maybe 5 shots left. Not enough to kill both of them. Not enough to kill one if she missed. The distress signal grew stronger. She was heading in the right direction, toward a cluster of rocky spires that rose from the flats like fossilized fingers. If she could reach those rocks, she might be able to use the terrain to her advantage. Might. A lycade slammed into her from the side. The impact sent her tumbling across the salt, her rifle spinning from her grasp. She hit the ground hard, her suit's inertial dampeners absorbing most of the force. But the breath still exploded from her lungs. Before she could recover, a massive paw pinned her to the ground. The Alpha loomed over her, its scarred chest heaving, its golden eyes burning with something that looked terrifyingly like triumph. Humans are so fragile. The voice whispered, but your fear is delicious. Kaylin's hand closed around the combat knife strapped to her thigh. It wasn't too much a piece of monomolecular edged ceramic that could cut through most materials, but it was something. As the Alpha lowered its head, jaws gaping to deliver the killing bite, she drove the blade upward with every ounce of strength she possessed. The knife sank into the soft tissue beneath the Alpha's jaw. The creature recoiled, shrieking, black ichor spraying from the wound. It wasn't a killing blow nowhere close, but it bought her a few seconds. Kaylin rolled free, scrambled to her feet, and ran for the rocks. She didn't look back. She couldn't afford to. The spires were closer now. 50 meters. 30. 10. She threw herself into a narrow crevice between two massive rock formations, her shoulders scraping against the rough stone. The crevice was barely wide enough for a human. The lycades would have to come in one at a time, if they could fit at all. She heard them circling outside, their claws clicking against the salt. The Alpha's enraged howls echoed across the flats, answered by distant calls from the rest of the pack. More were coming. She had minutes at most. Then she saw it. At the back of the crevice, half buried in the salt and rock, was a hatch. Not human-made, the design was wrong. All organic curves and iridescent metal that seemed to pulse with a faint inner light. Aliens. But the distress signal she had been tracking was coming from inside. Kaylin didn't hesitate. She grabbed the hatch's recessed handle and pulled. It opened with a hiss of escaping atmosphere, revealing a vertical shaft descending into darkness. A ladder of sorts, if you could call a series of glowing handholds, a ladder led down. The lycades were squeezing into the crevice behind her. She could hear their snuffling breaths, feel the vibration of their massive bodies against the stone. She climbed down. The shaft dropped for what felt like forever, the temperature rising with each handhold. The pulsing light grew stronger, illuminating walls covered in strange symbols that writhed and shifted as she watched. Some kind of living technology. Kaylin had seen similar things during her service. The Xylosians used bioorganic ships, and the Vorlag engineered their weapons from genetically modified tissue. But this felt different. Older. Wilder. She reached the bottom and stepped into a chamber that stole the breath from her lungs. It was enormous, a cavernous space carved from the planet's bedrock, filled with structures that defied description. Spires of crystal and bone rose from the floor, connected by bridges of woven light. Strange machines hummed and pulsed, their purpose unknowable. And in the center of it all, suspended in a field of crackling energy, was a creature that made the lycades look like household pets. It stood at least 15 feet tall, its body a fusion of lupine and humanoid features, muscles coiled beneath silver-black fur, and its face was almost beautiful in its predatory design, high cheekbones, a muzzle filled with teeth like daggers, and eyes that burned with the cold fire of distant stars. Chains of pure energy bound its limbs, anchoring it to 4 massive pillars. But even restrained, it radiated powers. Raw, untamed, reality-bending powers. Kaylin raised her knife, though she knew it would be useless. Who are you? The creature's eyes focused on her, and for the first time since she had crash-landed on this hellworld, she heard a voice that wasn't a whisper or a howl. It was a voice that resonated in her bones, her blood, her very soul. I am Fenric, last of the Star Wolves. And you, humans, have just walked into the middle of a war that spans galaxies. Before she could respond, the ceiling behind her exploded. Lycades poured through the shattered rock, dozens of them, their golden eyes blazing. their jaws dripping with hunger. They landed on the chamber floor and immediately began spreading out, surrounding her and the bound creature. But they weren't looking at Kaelin. They were looking at Fenric with an expression she recognized. Worship and fear. The Alpha landed last, its scarred chest still oozing black blood from where she had stabbed it. It limped forward, its gaze fixed on the Star Wolf, and opened its jaws. When the voice came, it was no longer a whisper in her mind. It was a physical thing, a vibration that made the crystals hum. Fenric, the Huntmaster sends his regards. He wants you to know that your pack is dead. Your worlds are ash. And soon, you will join them. Fenric strained against his bonds, the energy chains groaning but holding. Eldrak sends his pets to do his killing now. The mighty Huntmaster has grown cowardly. The Alpha snarled. Eldrak is patient. He has waited 10,000 cycles for this moment. The Star Wolves are extinct. You are the last. And when we deliver you to him, he will tear out your heart and wear your pelt as a cloak. Kaelin's mind raced. She didn't fully understand what was happening, but she understood one thing. These Lycades were servants of something called the Huntmaster, and they wanted Fenric dead, which meant Fenric was her only chance of survival. She looked at the energy chains, then at the machines powering them. If she could disrupt the field, even for a moment, Fenric might break free. And a 15-foot werewolf-alien god thing would make a pretty good distraction while she found a way off this planet. Hey, she said, loud enough for the Alpha to hear. You re-bleedings. The Alpha turned its massive head toward her, its golden eyes narrowing. The human speaks out of turn. Yes? Well, I also stabbed you. She pulled the plasma pistol from her belt, her last working weapon, and aimed it not at the Alpha, but at the nearest energy machine. Let us see how you handle that. She fired. The bolt struck the machine square in its crystalline core. The device exploded in a shower of sparks and shrapnel, and the energy field flickered. Fenric roared and pulled against his chains. One of them snapped. Then another. The Lycades howled in fury and surged forward. What followed was chaos. Fenric tore through his remaining restraints like they were made of paper, his massive form suddenly free and moving with impossible speed. He snatched two Lycades from the air and crushed their skulls together, their golden eyes going dark. The Alpha lunged at him, and the two titans collided in a blur of fur, fangs, and claws. Kaelin didn't wait to see who won. She ran. She sprinted toward a tunnel on the far side of the chamber, one that led deeper into the complex. Her HUD flickered, suit failing, oxygen dropping. She didn't take care. She just needed to find an exit. A ship. Anything. The tunnel opened into a hangar bay. And there, sitting on a landing pad, was a ship. A Star Wolf ship. Sleek and predatory, its hull shimmering with the same bioluminescent patterns as Fenric's fur. The boarding ramp was down. She was 20 meters away when the Alpha crashed through the tunnel behind her. It was injured, one of its forelegs hung at a wrong angle, and half its face had been torn away, but it was still alive. Still hunting. It limped toward her, dragging its broken body across the hangar floor. You. It snarled. You did this. Yes, Kaelin said, backing toward the ship. I get that a lot. She reached the ramp just as the Alpha lunged. The ship's systems must have detected the threat, because a panel on the hull slid open and a weapon emplacement emerged, a cannon of some kind, pulsating with blue-white energy. It fired once. The Alpha was vaporized. Fur, bone, ichor, all of it turned to ash in an instant. Kaelin stared at the empty space where the creature had been, then at the cannons, then at the ship. Okay. She breathed. That works. She climbed the ramp and sealed it behind her. The interior of the ship was warm, pulsing with the same living light as the chamber above. A holographic interface flickered to life, displaying a stylized image of Fenric. You freed me. The Star Wolf's voice said. I am in your debts. Humans. Call it evens. I need a ride off this planet. Where would you go? Kaylin thought about the colonies. The UC Marine Corps. The life she had left behind. None of it mattered anymore. Veridian 9 had changed her. The Lycades had changed her. And now, this. Wherever the Huntmaster is, she said. Sounds like he needs to be put down. Fenric's holographic image flickered, and she could have sworn it was smiling. I like you. Humans. What is your name? Kaylin. Then climb aboard. Kaylin. We have a galaxy to save, and a very long hunt ahead of us. The ship's engines hummed to life, lifting them out of the hangar and through the shattered ceiling of the cavern. Above, the burning sky of Veridian 9 gave way to the cold darkness of space. Kaylin settled into the pilot's seat, or what passed for a pilot's seat in a living ship, and watched as the dead planet shrank behind her. She had come to this world as a soldier, a survivor, a woman just trying to make it through one more day. She was leaving as something else, something wild, something free. The hunt had only just begun.